the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's a Patriot missile. And even as the Biden administration escalates the conflict in Ukraine exponentially and global consequences accumulate, we're reminded once again that the man with his finger on the button was deemed too demented to even run for president this year. In a time when Putin's playing mind games, how concerned should we all be to have a president who has lost the game pieces?
The US President Joe Biden has authorized Ukraine to use American long-range missiles to strike targets deep inside Russia.
No wonder he supports illegal stealing our jobs. The only way Biden's going to suffer from brain drain is on a toilet. How bad a news is this exactly? Put it this way. It made Alex Soros just about French kiss his own crank. That about answer your question? And before you insincerely shriek the words, guilt by association, look, your mileage may vary, you stunningly stoic Roman statue avatar having ass hats you. But for me in my house, if Alex Soros were overjoyed about a cancer cure, you couldn't inject it into my body at gunpoint. Like, when are you planning to learn your lesson here, retards? The right will happily post 1,100 based Biden memes because his body double had a goofy grin for his meeting with Trump, but for their ostensible compadres on the right, oh, it's unremitting envy and acrimony exclusively. Like, no shit Biden flashed his fake teeth when Trump visited. He was so hopped up on adrenochrome and baby bone marrow, he probably thought he was playing pinochle with gold in my ear. Joe Biden would be excited to meet Joe Biden at this point. I wouldn't read too much into catching sight of his ceramic chompers, but in amongst the maelstrom of Alzheimer's medication doubtless coursing through his varicose arteries, if you were to ask me, hand to God, if I thought Biden was actually behind the order to allow Ukraine to kickstart a third world war, the short answer would be yes, and the long answer would be hell yes. But I'd argue apoplectic assertions of the Biden administration attempting to foster that result explicitly are farther from the mark than Dick Cheney with a loaded shotgun. In short, it's not about inciting World War III. It's about keeping the commander-in-chief preoccupied with the thankless task of preventing World War III now that he enjoys an overwhelming mandate from the masses. Look, Trump could talk Lizzo out of eating a ballpark frank. I have no doubt an experienced negotiator and deal-maker like the Dawn would be capable of such, but it would necessarily distract from implementing the agenda he was elected to enact: the elimination of government waste, the reform or annihilation of corrupt intelligence agencies, and the deportation of the Democrats' 20 million new Nicaraguan voters. In the immortal words of the great Michael Savage, from whom so much of the MAGA vocabulary has been profligately cribbed, an agenda centered around borders, language, and culture. Much like the missiles in question, this is a shoot-and-scoot strategy, a stunningly obvious sandbag attempt against what he argued in public, but likely acknowledges in private, is the very possible likelihood that Trump actually may make good on his promise to peacefully resolve the Ukrainian crisis within 24 hours, or roughly half of a Mueller video essay.
Star Wars is If you skip this episode, Ahsoka simply needed to chase the bad guys inside a whale, which is fucking retarded in and of itself. Her existential crisis came from nothing and is resolved with ease in minutes.
Love you, dude. It's just a joke. Look, Biden isn't merely playing with fire here. He's juggling tiki torches while riding a unicycle atop an oil derrick, dickheads. And no one has indicated this more emphatically than Russia, who quietly greenlit the nuclear reprisal option as a result. Because Vladimir Putin's position, one I recommend you take with a grain of borscht, by the way, is that while Ukraine is more than welcome to launch ordnance sold to them by Western powers, the deployment of long-range missile systems would logistically require the use of NATO and U.S. satellites. In effect, Ukraine can't launch these missiles, only the Western powers can, making the U.S. and NATO formal participants in the Russia-Ukraine war, all without a formal declaration of such.
Если это решение будет принято, это будет означать не что иное, как прямое участие стран НАТО, Соединенных Штатов, европейских стран в войне на Украине.
But come on! Korea, Iraq, and Afghanistan have clearly shown that congressional war declarations are profoundly passé. It's the globo homo equivalent of flare jeans, Quicksilver, and culottes, kiddies. It's all about police actions, regime change, shock and awe, asshole. Gosh, I can't wait to find out how mass murder and thermonuclear holocaust are being worn next season. But before you bite down on the black pill, I need you to take a beat and appreciate how far we've come already by doing the precise opposite. The black pill didn't end the lockdowns. The black pill didn't send Kamala back to clown college. Indeed, perhaps nothing is more instructive in this regard than the election cycle from which we only recently emerged. We went from multiple attempted Trump prosecutions and staring down the barrel of a DeSantis-Pence primary to 2 foiled assassination attempts in as many months, to pinko pollsters outright fabricating data to cultivate a Kamala coup, to Trump, in the face of withering fire, both figurative and literal, emerging from the mat, his own plasma coursing down his neck, hoisting his fist aloft and proclaiming, "Fight! Fight! Fight!" And indeed, he fought his way into the White House, irrefutably illustrating that sometimes, in some circumstances, when the atramentus mire suffocates the citizenry, where our enemies erect antimicrobial barriers, mandate masks, and lay claim to the very air we breathe, when they regard roughly half the country as camo-clad AR racking domestic terrorists and falsely prosecute us as such, that sometimes, indeed often, the only way out is through. Not only isn't it over, we ain't into the prologue yet, people, and the only kind of fight that's done and dusted before a solitary punch has been thrown is the kind that ends with Jake Paul winning on points. I'm Razor Fist. Godspeed.
Vladimir, you're not going in.